would request Dr. Navneet Munot to please introduce the speaker and welcome the speaker.
Thank you, Prerna. And I welcome architect Badrinath Kaleru, principal architect at Studio RDT. Badrinath Kaleru, an alumni of IIT Roorkee, founded Studio RDT in 2010 with the belief that every problem has the capacity to inspire unique and creative solution that motivate growth. His vision is to design space that would evolve into art, enriching the lives of people inhabiting them. His work has been published on various national and international platforms, besides being shortlisted and awarded at World Architect Festival 2015, 2017, 2018, Salon Satellite 2018, Glen Market Master Class 2018, Euroshop Design Award 2017, Architect Design Award FOID 2017, NDTV Grohe Award and Smart Green Awards 2018, Eurasian Prize Award 2018, the Architecture Master Prize 2018, and Euro-Asian Prize 2020. So with this brief and very impressive introduction, I would like to welcome again architect Badrinath.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Navneet sir, for giving this amazing opportunity to present about brand value and creation. To start with our session, basically, when we talk about brand and value creation in AEC sector, is something that when I was like, it's actually like I run like firstly about myself. I'm a founder and director for Studio RDT, and we run a practice based out of Chandigarh. But we cater it to across India as per the services, and in terms of inspiration, there's something we could inspire people across the world with the kind of work we do. So what is about brand and value creation? Because firstly, when we talk about how AEC sector is still evolving in a sense, when we talk about what we consider what is brand and value. If we talk about what is like brand value creation, what does it actually mean? So it is to do with something that brand value creation is like creating a brand promise of a valued and relevant, something differentiated, trustworthy, that is delivered consistently. So when we talk about brand value creation, it is something that what we normally see like bigger brands like McDonald's, Apple, and Google. When we consider something as a brand, there is a way how we actually behave with it. So how do we actually create it? So to understand that, it's like what exactly is a brand? So brand is probably a way or a company, or like it's just like how an individual perceives and experiences it. So it is not to do with logo, it is to do with the feelings that evoke when we associate it with that brand. So Apple as a brand doesn't mean that Apple has a logo. It doesn't mean that the products which it sells, but the Apple as a brand is a feeling that invokes in the customer or an individual or in any company. When we consider like, okay, this is Apple, this is Dell, or probably like any kind of brands, how we actually see brands, or right from the fashion brands to right from the watches and everything. But what it has to do with AC sector. But AC sector also has a potential to create a brand. But the bigger challenges, like when you look at the challenges when we, like if we put at brands are usually perceptions. It has nothing to do with what we actually do. It is more about the kind of feeling that or the perception that creates when we invoke it. So how do we, and perceptions are malleable. They can be changed. But those are the things which actually are carried over. Like what happens like when we talk about how the whole concept of burger was revolutionized by McDonald's. Well, the idea was if somebody was having a burger like in California was exactly the same if somebody is having in Bangkok is exactly the same if it happens in Delhi. So even across, so an ad that was given in something like California is working for a burger that is delivered in Bangkok. So that is what a way how the brand actually works. And what if, for example, an Apple ad probably in the United States, it would trigger like something which happens everywhere in the world. But is it directly applicable to AC sector? Maybe or maybe not. For example, in AC sector, if you talk about products, yes, because products is an evolved economy and it is actually being run by organized systems. So that's why, like when we talk about manufacturing, they are brands in it. But what happens when we talk about services? What happens when we talk about service products? What happens when we talk about contractual firms? So what the difference has, because certain parameters, they're not exactly same in the way they apply. They're slightly different. Because of the difference, for example, when you talk about L&T, yes, it's not a contractor, it's a brand. L&T is a brand. But to make what L&T is L&T, it took so many years. But does it mean that traditional brands would actually take so much time to be brands? Maybe, may not. Because when I say maybe, may not be, it means that if we follow the same old ways of creating the brand, which was created with several years ago, then the results are bound to be similar. But if you look at newer ways of making brands, because I will also talk about brands, how they have even in architecture firm, how they become brands in very short period of time. And when they become brands, so they have deployed or they have used certain different ways or kinds which have been not used by earlier firms, but had been not used by similar firms. That's how they create this kind of difference. Say, suppose when you talk about the characteristics of a brand, so brand is an intangible, you cannot touch it. It's the feeling that you generate, so you cannot touch it. It's dynamic, it could change. For example, if we talk about the same example of Apple, way back when Apple was formed, it was known for something else. It was known for making small economical devices in computers, small economical personal computers sort of devices which were very cost effective, to a point where it has become one of the most valued brand in the world. And today it's creating something like phones, and which are very different from what it was perceived way back. So it is dynamic, but the perception can change. It's dynamic. It's distinctive. The brand needs to distinguish itself from its counterparts, because for a consumer, the kind of parameters we have across the market, how do you distinguish something which is very specific? So to distinguish which is very specific is a distinction, which is a coherent property or a characteristic of a brand. And similarly, brands, again, they need to be emotional. It needs to connect. Connection is very, very important part, like how it connects to your life, how it connects to the consumers. And it needs to be recognizable. Like how, for example, in Coca-Cola as a brand, if you see how it's probably the first ways how which a brand was created in close into 1800s, end of 1800s, where the brand was actually created. It's how they created something that was, they started painting red color billboards, they started patenting the bottles which they put in the drink, and how it has started as a highly recognizable thing. And consistency. So consistency is something that every time when you when you receive that product or a service, you actually have a lot of predefined expectations. Whenever, for example, how is that sometimes when you go to something where a food where you eat, because if it is a brand like McDonald's or KFC or any other brand, so the burger taste is consistent across different platforms. Or if there is inconsistency, sometimes you go into a restaurant, have a meal and say today the meal was not great, but in there today the meal was great. But irrespective, because when the meal was great, because you had a different expectation, and the next time you come up with a bigger expectation, but the consistency is drops. So this is something that consistency is a very primary character to scale up a brand. And normally in AC sector, the challenges are predominantly, even in terms of when we talk about contractual firms, except for the manufacturing firms, which have evolved as brands. When we talk about contracting firms in terms of service providers like architects and other parameters, so we are traditionally, we are very inconsistent in the way of approach. Because inconsistent in the sense, not sometimes the challenges, even some of the biggest challenges, even some of the very big, well-known practices were not scalable. Sometimes there was a certain period of time they were not scalable. The challenge is when they were well known also, why is that they were not scalable? So they could be very famous for doing a particular project, but they could not expand. They could not expand the kind of work they could do across different markets. Like they could not be, if they are doing good work here, but they could not do the same work in US, they could not do the same work in Europe, or they did not intend to. There was a higher level of inconsistency, which was there because traditionally architecture as a practice was more of a sole practitioner. It started as a sole practitioner. It was again the craftsmanship, and because the nature of work we do, it actually has a lot of free will, because we say the architects act as per free will. Like even the contractors also, we do work for a specific solution for it. But predominantly, like even as architects, planners, or consultation providers, we think we are free to be. We could act in a way we could. But the challenge when it comes, when you look at it from the client perspective, it is very hazardous because sometimes, like yes, we think we belong to something like from the artist domain. Yes, we belong to the artist domain. But the challenge is when we actually apply to real world, the world is a fast moving place. It's changing every day. Assuming, put yourself in the shoes of a client for a moment and see what if somebody is giving you, is making a nice shoe for you. You are very excited on the first moment. He has given you timelines and he comes every time. But because of the free will, the shoemaker doesn't actually honor your time. He says, okay, I'm still working on it. You come after 10 days, 15 days, and probably weeks delay by delay. Or probably he said, and I'll when I finally get it, I'll call you, then you don't come. But do you think, could you actually accept it when you're from the other side of it? Not necessarily, right? Because the world has moved too fast, and it is like, in a way, we are living in an organized world where probably we are one of the last industries, like probably after agriculture, like that AC needs to, as a kind of a deliverance where we need to move away from the traditional old ways and to shift towards modern ways. The modern ways, because inconsistency is something that you might be very good artist, like, but the point is, because of inconsistency, it would not actually help you, or it would not help as a practice. Similarly, when we talk about what is about like lack of awareness, because most of the time we don't intend to be like what we call as we intend to be a brand, because we normally consider it like, because it's a professional practice, how can it be a brand? It's more like a practice, it cannot be a brand. But anything brand is associated with business, and business, anything which makes profit is a business. It could be an NGO which makes profit, it could be a business. So anything which makes a business, but the whole pretense is that we don't want to identify ourselves as businessmen. We say we are professionals. Yes, we are professionals. We are professional businessmen, or we are professionals which are running into a practice. So that is when there is a difference of opinion. Like, because traditionalists would always say that, yes, we are a professional practice. We have a lot of responsibilities. Yes, even the business has a lot of responsibilities, because the challenge is we provide service. We provide service to a service provider. So we are service providers. Yes, we might be visionaries, but we are also service providers. We're not only service providers, but the kind of services which normally what service providers provide and we provide, that's why it comes under a special category called technical, professional, scientific, research services. So what the kind of work we do would be similar to a research institute or a research service provider. So that is where it actually is like slightly different. And it talks about, because of the customized nature of our services and products that we actually doing, so we actually think that it could not be scalable or it could not be standardized. But this is again not a challenge, but is more of a pretense or a myth, because even if it is a customized nature of it, there are ways wherein, because once we understand ways, we could actually sort things, keep it more specific. Because if you think as an architectural practice or a consultant, I can serve the whole world. Yes, you might, but to start with, you need to start very small. You need to start small. You need to define a particular area. At least you start service providing for at least those areas, and slowly you can only scale back. Because once you need to create a sustainable model, then you need to scale it up. But you cannot say that, okay, from day one, I can do anything and everything. So we need to restrict something which is very small, but we need to scale up. Because even, for example, when there's a very popular saying that when Steve Jobs came back to Apple as the CEO for the second time, he actually reduced Apple from which was producing 435 products to just 9 products. So why is that shift of something like it was producing hundreds of kinds of product, they shifted to 9 products. The whole idea is the less you do, you get specialized into it. And when you reduce the kind of where you're operating, you could specialize because today it's a world that is moving from generalization to. So when we talk about the traditionally, like when we talked about like customized nature of service and products. And traditionally, because it comes from, we were probably like, it comes from an unorganized sector, because the whole, from where we start, it is still yet to be totally organized, because it's organized in certain countries, but in still like countries like India, most of it is still they consider classically as the civil work comes into mostly unorganized. Yes, like construction companies have organized it a bit, but the overall mindset is still like we are like, even for example, even today, though the sector has been organized, but if you look at the percentage of construction happening in the country and the percentage of actually the organized sector is building is very less, because there's a major shift of probably like more than 70% of work like happens in an organized sector. There's a lot of work which even happens without an architect. There's a lot of work which even happens without a contractor. It's a very small scale, but still like there's a lot of the predominantly it's like very wide and it actually happens. Now the other thing is like the mindset. Mindset is like generally like we don't think that yes we could be a brand, and we don't associate ourselves as a brand, and that is where the total shift happens, because once we start considering it like what ways it could be a brand and what could be the new ways, like how can we shed off our old ways and look at ways where we could be working around, which could probably add more value to us, or something that it creates more value. So if you look at what globally, like how certain companies have did something which was something which was phenomenal in terms of example, Arrow, something which was started like a company in UK, and it's like now it's a brand, like how the scale they have been and what scale they have grown into, and it's like a complete organization. Similarly, like if we look at House Song, which they started with 3 people, and today, like even after close to a century, it's still one of the biggest firm. So probably they would have done something which could have done in much initial days to actually scale up. And it was when we see that, okay, when most companies don't survive this kind of parameter, and now they have scaled up such a big. And similarly, if you look at how even in practice of architecture, like how like there's a firm M. Moser which actually creates like something which is like a global workspace organization. They design workspaces. So is it that they have picked up a certain sector, they only look at workspaces, and they have actually developing those workspaces. They specialize in creating workspaces for organized sector, and that's how they could actually build across so many countries. They could scale up in a very different way, probably one of the very big firms, and doing like just one typology. So the smaller we get in terms of doing one typology, then probably the potential of getting more bigger spaces, or even something that could be recognized to a certain kind of style, say suppose Foster and Partners. So if you look at it, it's not run by a person, it's run by a manager. It's like more of a kind of a management which runs it. And the whole process of how it has been by the, it's like they actually converted it in sometimes of in early 2000s. It was converted from a kind of a firm to a fund company, where it is being like it's not owned by Norman Foster anymore. It's like it's sold to him. Yes, he's integral part of it, but there's a lot of scalability in what they have created, and even like in India also, like how Hafiz Contractor has created something which was very scalable. So similarly, like if you look at even something what inspires me about like what happened, because we think that all these things took a lot of years to build, but is it that if you start today and we actually end up making something which a brand after 30, 40 years? No, but we even have examples now wherein like a small practice was completely transformed in a matter of 10 years. It's like if you look at big architects, a small Copenhagen firm which was founded in around 2005 and 2006. It was started very small, like a very small firm. And today, probably it is one of the name itself suggests it's like one of the very big architects. And how they have scaled across different continents, they have provided like, and even like how the CEO of the company, something which is not unheard in architects practices like CEO, but yes, they have a CEO for last so many years, and even like Big has been like, even at the age of 41, he created a firm from scratch, and something in a matter of 10 years, he could scale it to one of the biggest firms in the world and some one of the very phenomenal forces of designs today, like which is comparable to what like Foster's have done, which took a lot of time, but something that it is possible even. But there have been a lot of unconventional ways which Big was successfully implementing and to do it, because for example, like it was probably a firm where they actually created something like in Copenhagen, they had a showroom. Like, can you imagine an architect doing a showroom? But what does it make? He actually did a showroom where they did all their models lined up, sewing it up. So it was more like in a physical city, they did a showroom. So it is not like advertising branding or anything, but it was a very different way how they looked at things. And probably like how the CEO puts up, if you can read up the quote, it actually says that we have been unafraid to be inspired from other industries and other businesses, and we try to be unafraid of thinking about our company as a professional consultancy rather than a design studio. So this is a differentiator. When we think we are a professional consultation and we think that yes, we are a professionals and we need to deliver every single time as a professional, that is when there is a lot of difference that creates in the entire culture. And what people know of Big is something that yes, they do very big projects, grand scale projects, and in a very short period of time. And what people don't know about Big, how he has created it, is also about a lot to do about. For example, when he got his first project, when he's probably 26, 27, so what he said was, okay, I am, because traditional companies would say that, okay, I'm the architect, so I need to be the project leader. But need not be, because when Big he actually did was, okay, I take care of the design, but I don't have the experience to be the lead project architect, but I still am the design architect, but the project lead architect would be something else. We actually associated with somebody who was 10 years older, and he made him like the lead, the project head of it, who's taking care of all the decisions with the technical expertise, but at the same time, he was taking care of the design. So by doing this, combining this, like it was something that he could buy in 10 more years to start a project which he could not have otherwise started, just like simple switch of mindset. By doing that, he has changed the perspective how people have seen at him. And now today, like even he's 41 years old and he's one of his oldest associate is 51 years old. And how like we always think about we now traditionally do and how he has done it. And similarly, like how in the last 10 years, they have seen a growth rate of more than 500%, like how they have switched up completely, transforming from a small 30, 40-year people firm to something which is like a 600 people global firm, offices across different continents. And also about like, as if they have been like one of a practice wherein like, it is not only about how they design, it's also about how they operate, how they serve their clients, and how they take up the management of the firm. So that is something that makes them, which is very unique. And that is how like probably they have been in the matter of like 10 years with an experience, not very much, a lot of pre-experience, they could scale up to one of the biggest firms, which probably like 99.99% firms could have never done it. And that's how which makes them very different. So similarly, like when we talk about, yes, like if you say that, okay, who am I here to talk about? So the chat is about I inspired from Big. So we actually like look at like what we have done, like what we could or what we understood could have been done. And I'll also show you that what we could have done, like what we have done till now. So then there are 9 ways of branding, like in terms of what I could find, because I'm not a researcher, I'm a doer. I do things and I get results. I learn a lot. I look at different aspects of the business, look after it, and that's how we try to build a brand. And that's how, like, even today, Ardit is something for at least in North India, there has been a lot of people who could appreciate and associate with the work, and like we could create a sense of brand value for Ardit, because most of the clients we always tell that, okay, it looks like an Ardit project. So what we say that, because it's not written anywhere, it's an Ardit project. Why does they say that it's like? So that's kind of value that was associated to the brand Ardit, which they could connect. So we talk about innovation of client experience. So innovation of client experience. Traditionally, like as I talked about the example, traditionally the client experience for working with an architect used not to be very great. Like he's not joyful about working with an architect. Yes, there have been some of the master architects who were, but in general, like in India, when you talk about it is, yes, for a traditional homeowner, because the inconsistency, sometimes it could be very great, but sometimes there were a lot of inconsistency. I was talking about general. So we need to look at ways where we could create a client experience. For example, when we talk about visualization, yes, we could have we create drawings, but end of the day, do actually clients need to look at drawings? They actually need to look at how it actually builds up. So for example, like we like couple of years ago, we started like showing up projects in virtual reality, wherein it was like for the clients, it was a very unique experience, and it's not like just that we have invented or something, but it has been done by great practices like Zaha, the architects. They actually run an entire video game developed around the project to run a customized complete VR solution. We use a very different, simpler solution, but yes, we could actually do that also. And also about when we talk about a design product, we need to see like design as a product. When we say design product, it's like, okay, we're designing a house, we're designing a studio, or designing something. But looking at it from a kind of, when it is like a product and a machine, like if you look at when you look yourself from a perspective of manufacturer, we need to get all the odds right, wherein like in terms of researching the project and how professionally we could look at these things, and we could bring up a research, which is like, and also about not just from we talk about like how we could create a well-researched design product. So similarly, like systems and operations and processes, usually when we talk about an architectural practice, which is more about doing about customization, but how do we think that we actually have systems in operations and processes? But what happens in terms of like for example, we have started implementing systems in terms of a lot of other parameters, in terms of how we run the entire process, how the drawings have been made, everything is being processized. So even like, for example, a CRM would actually boost up your client relationship in terms of how you interact with client. And similarly, like in terms of authenticity and honesty in product offering, in terms of how we offer the product and everything, it could be like a very big boost what we have found. And we need to shift from we need to shift to specialization from generalization. So something like because traditionally when an architectural practice, we would say the architect is capable to doing anything and everything or any kind of thing. But for example, how we have like doctors who specialize into certain things, and similarly like even contractors, for example, specialize into certain kinds of building, and ultimately architects actually specialize into doing certain kind of building. But what is to do with the brand identity is that yes, we are doing that any which ways, but how it associates is like, if you can carefully see what you're actually doing into it, can you focus more on that area where you're specializing it? Because no architect like would actually have a complete array of projects, even like the biggest ones. But if you can specialize, focus more on what you want to like develop it. And something bringing that mindset of a startup mindset where we could actually create a scalable thing, something we could create standardization. Like standardization again brings in a lot of in terms of what we call about we think like, because it's a customized offering, so we can't standardize things, but there could be standard way of presenting the client, standard way of doing a certain thing. Everything in the organization could be standardized. And that's how, for example, even in like Foster's office, there was a time wherein like there was one person who would draw elevators for 90 projects and 60 competitions. like there was somebody who was used to draw toilets of all of them. So that was a way to actually standardize. And how, like for example, when you talk about standardization, how Ford was the first company to actually introduce the concept of division of labor, because earlier when cars used to be made, one person used to do 10 different things, and that's the way like the production of the cars was increased many-fold by one person doing one thing at a time, and used to just, if he's doing certain thing, and used to just specialize in that. So the whole idea of like rather than one person, but what team could perform, and something that putting yourself from the client side. Putting yourself from the client side is a perspective which changes, which gives you a lot of things. When you put yourself, okay, what you want as from a client, and these would be very different from what you would do as a service provider. So that is where there's a very big shift. So when you put yourself that completely in terms of, but it is not that when you talk about putting yourself from client side, it doesn't mean that we end of the day, we convert ourselves into a mere service providers where we only do what clients say. That is not the point we're trying to make. Like doing all these things is about thinking from the client side only means that when, for example, when looking at what problems client has and how do we solve them, because end of the day, the kind of services, when you talk about professional and technical services, they are very different from conventional simple services. Probably like what service would Airtel provide is very different from what service as a technical practice would provide. But understanding that, yes, we are also providing services, there is a difference in which how we can actually look at from it. And consistency in delivery, like in terms of when any time, because there could be a lot of parameters where one can look up about giving the deliverable consistently, like time deliverables is one of the very key parameters. We don't say that we don't miss our deadlines, but we make sure that if the deadline is missed, it is properly communicated, and it is like the reasons have been elaborated and previously, and it is being done. So these are the parameters which we found like could be helpful in a way that if somebody, a brand, could be scaled up. Like if you look at how we do it, for example, this is a practice audit, and as a practice audit, right now we only offer like 3 types of services. Going forward, we are also looking to cut down like one of the service, and we'll just keep it to 2 types, or probably 1 type. And we have like a dedicated CRM for the clients, and we have more than 90% on-time query resolution. For example, we actually map every query that comes into a practice. Like for example, if we are doing like we are a small practice, we do 40-45 projects, and we are like 15 to 20 people. And when we do 45 projects, like the kind of amount of queries that come in from every project, like one project could have 20 projects in a day. So we actually map up every query that comes to it, and there's a very dedicated turnaround time that is given to the client that this will be resolved. Because otherwise, it used to be like in a traditional architectural office, like our designers don't get time to design because it's so much of calling that is happening and trying to resolving and everything, all the discussion going on. It's all like everybody's running everywhere, but there is no sense of peace and tranquility in it. By doing this, we could actually increase our client satisfaction ratio. We could increase our parameters in terms of on-time delivery, and everything in terms of all the work is being planned as per a project's management system. And we manage and we review it every week, when we could see that how the workflow is shifting. So everybody actually gets to know that what kind of work they need to do, what kind of work they need to do after this, and for the period. And it is constantly dynamic system, and it is on the server everywhere, and everybody could access it. So it actually cuts down the time in terms of switching between the projects where people don't know. So this is a way where we cut down the firefighting, because to create a brand, it needs to be scalable. So they need to be like, because most of the time, like the traditional practice are lost in terms of doing firefighting every day, doing the same thing repeatedly. So where you can actually automate certain things where you can't do repeatedly, because it's more about doing specific focus work. And similarly, like converting some services into a service product, and we package everything into create like how software companies do to create it into a product. And also have like we have dedicated systems for social media, because we don't advertise like how traditional architecture firms, we're not allowed to advertise. We don't advertise. We don't advocate that we need to advertise. But yes, there are newer ways in terms of there could be social media value addition that you give away to clients, people who are prospects who want to look forward for you. something not about, okay, this is what we do, but it's more about the value addition you could create about. And something, there could be an unconventional approach towards the design systems that could be created, which could be very different from each one. And that's how, like, for example, what is unconventional approach? It could be many different things. For example, they could be like, there could be an architect who is specialized in organic, like making like what is called organic. So when we talk about the unconventional approach, so if we see that, probably I'm just trying to show like what we normally do, because this was an idea wherein like this have been old factory buildings which have been transformed. Like we can see the old factory buildings before, and it was transformed to create a material which was very unique, and itself, like the project itself has become a brand for the company which was to do furniture, and it also become a breakthrough project for us because a lot of people associate us with this project. Similarly, like this is one project wherein like we could actually redefine veneer in a way that we created a brand for the client, and it itself created something very phenomenal to us because it created something that could we got a lot of international awards for this project. We have created something which was very unique, like international awards across. We got publications across. And something like this is a project where it is a commercial project, wherein it was, again, it's probably like by creating a brand for like a client itself, like because the building actually, because of its creation, was sold when it was being made from the like almost like 1.5 times the prevailing rate of the market, and it was only possible because of the kind of uniqueness, and that itself created a kind of a brand value, because if we make a building from them, so it actually creates standout. So that's how what is saying, like in terms of in design we could achieve a kind of brand value. And similarly, like in when we do like one of the product offering is like we make boutique houses, and houses like wherein people could actually blend, dwell in self and interact into something very customizable. So we actually customize to individual experience. But this is one of a house wherein it was the idea was around to create a pool and an experience. And it's a very small 500 square yard house, but the kind of open space in between is like 30 by 30, and it's like pretty dominant and how it shows up completely. So the whole idea is about, yes, doing where we can, what we can do as architects or as service providers. There is a lot when we actually can work on creating a brand value. And that's how like there have been certain brands, like a lot of people, some certain practices which would have created brands, and they have actually achieved what we could. I wouldn't say that, okay, we have achieved it, but I would say that, yes, we are at least looking into discovering ourselves, discovering our ways, and looking after for it. And probably like we're more trying to do it. And I wouldn't say that we have done it, but we're still trying to do it. That is looking into those directions, developing processes. And every day is like we are like tomorrow, we're all like today, we're already yesterday, better than yesterday. And that's how constant progress in terms of shifting towards systems and creating what we have done here actually helps us creating what we call as something like brand value. So this is my presentation. You can ask questions in it.
Thank you for your session, sir. We are now open for the question and answer session. We have one question from Mr. Amit. I think in this current session, it would be nice if the importance of resource, especially human, are also elaborated as a theme, which help build a brand, its worth, and take pride to be associated with it, even when it was a scratch, and how they help a brand maintain its standards and values.
So if I try to understand the question correctly, it talks about the importance of resource, human resources, and also like as a team, which would help create a brand. So again, when we talk about a brand which is building from a scratch, it has to do with the values. Because, for example, even in our small team, because I have not done it for a pretty long time. We just started doing it when the kind of work we are doing it probably like from past 5 years. But in 5 years, we could do a lot of things. And so it was all built around a very close-knit team. And how it is important is about end of the day, when you look as a team, as your partners, and we actually work around creating something. Because it's like end of the day, for example, if perfection is what is needed and that is what is looked after, and that's how you pursue as a team. It's like you lead by doing it. So you're not managing people, you're leading, you're a leader doing it. And that's how, like, if somebody gets stuck, like you get into deep, like to get it out of it. And there are like what kind of values you define for yourself, what kind of standards you define for yourself is something you need to set. But again, setting up your standards, you need to set up standards which are much higher than your competition. You need to set up values which we don't normally do. Like, for example, even like the kind of team building activities and how they perceive associating it. Because end of the day, and what it actually comes out to be like, even we had challenges when we were at initial stage to retain people. But today, to a point where, for example, even when we take like 4 to 5 interns a year, we actually get applications close to 800, 900, where people would actually want to come here to work, to a point where probably when we started off, interns never stayed back, they just left. But it takes time. But in terms of when we actually see value to it, in terms whether if it's from an intern or from people, they stay back when you actually set up your own standards. And how the good work gets appreciated from the client, it gets appreciated from the media, and that's how like it creates the kind of brand and helps people stay together. I hope if I could answer the question, or if I could further need to elaborate, you can let me know.
I hope your question is being answered. There's one more question from Mr. Keshav. He has asked that why have you named your firm as Ardate?
Basically, it's like it's a simple combination of 3 words. It's actually architecture, design, and technology. So it's a very simple way how we actually name it, because whatever we primarily look at architecture, design, and technology as one single entity. Because architecture and design can, like, with the technology is what we look at, and that's how like we use technology to deliver our design and architecture. And we are very pro technology practice, wherein we adopt, like, we have our own 3D printing studio, we have our own like virtual reality setup for the clients. So we are used to we make unconventional designs, and we also make unconventional approaches to design, where we could create what we could. And that's how I think it started off as Ardate.
Any more questions? The participants can also open their mic and ask. The participants can open their mics if they want and ask any questions. All right. So I think that's the questions we had. And now, thank you very much, first of all, sir, for your session. And I would request Dr. D.P. Singh to please summarize the whole session and thank the speaker for joining us.
Thank you, Prerna. And I think this is the topic which is very close to my heart. And one of the reasons is that when you are evaluated on any topic, I also got evaluated on the same topic in 2008 by one of the very finest teachers at IIT Roorkee. So I was doing my like PhD coursework at that time with MArch students, and it was really difficult for me to actually compete with the present day students. That means young students at that time. In BIM, they were talking of lots of things about green roofing, green technologies, and blah blah blah. So I was just thinking of that. What is it that we are lacking in architectural practice throughout India, which is different from uh, European or other nations, advanced countries. So this one thing I could find was that we are not able to brand ourselves, uh, uh, the value which is needed actually uh, in the business message of your own organization or work, which should actually keep paying you for a longer time. Now, I was not able to at that time understand that how to present it, because else it becomes too boring for the students or the teachers to uh, to comprehend what brand value I'm talking about. So I took example of pick the characters from Bollywood, and at that time the characters were Aishwarya Rai, the Abhishek Bachchan, the Salman Khan, and from the politics side, the Amar Singh in their family, Amitabh Bachchan, Jaya Bachchan, and one more fellow, Vivek Oberoi. So I took all these characters, and through this story, I was able to actually help my peers understand that what brand value means, what branding is, how the mergers take place, how acquisitions take place in branding for the purpose of branding. So that was a great exercise, and today I am very happy to see when uh, Badri has been able to explain these things in detail to all the participants. And 13 years is a long time. Things have changed. He started his practice in 2010, and with that acumen, branding acumen, marketing acumen in his mind, he's able to do so many good projects in these 11 years, which is, I will not say a uh, very old practice. I will say it very contemporary practice, established in a great way. So, in architecture, also when we talk of, I see Hafiz was able to create that branding for himself. Now, slowly, gradually, Morphogenesis is able to do it for itself in due to the energy areas, talking lots of things about the energy areas and other things. But the greatest example which I take from across the world is from the product side, and that is the branding of Coke. So whenever you feel that uh, if you're not getting your answers related to branding or marketing, I think Coke is the best example. Another big example I see is Nike, Just Do It. So these few examples actually keeps you motivating that how you can brand your own organization, firm, what's the message the people should value. One important thing is it's not necessary that the message that you want to give to the client, customer, market, emerging markets, that they will take it as you want to sell it. The message is something which is, when it comes to value, it is that what I perceive as a customer for the message. The message is actually like embossed in my everything. So Coke means Coke. I will not prefer any other drink if I am looking for Coke, right? So this is the kind of feeling which we need to address or inculcate in our practice, where the clients and customer are able to see that value, that if I am going for a project, my architect is Badri, means Badri, no, nobody else. So this is how I think this was the idea of this session. And no doubt that 1 hour is too less time to take up the entire gimmick of this whole story, but still, valuable insights have been given by architect Badri, and I hope that this is the starting point for all of you to use it as another tool to shape up your practice, or when many of the students who are trying to take flight after their final years will definitely incorporate it as an important tool to move ahead. So with these words, I would like to thank Architect Badrinath, who has spared his time, valuable time, to come for this training session of joint training session of Council of Architecture and MET School of Architecture and Planning. And we will keep calling you Architect Badri for other sessions too in future, because we have really enjoyed and liked the way you have thought and evolved in your practice. It's really a learning and a case study for many young architects who are participating today. And I will request that if any participant have further any questions, they can always write to Prerna, and she will connect you with Architect Badri. And this is how, as a this is the community service, I will say, architect can best do by helping the fellow architects grow in their own domains. With these words, thank you once again. I would like to thank our organization also, MET Foundation, RBA Foundation, where our founder president has created opportunities for all of us to uh, conduct such open-minded workshops and seminars where knowledge keeps evolving, growing, critical evaluations are there, and so many things. So thank you so much. Thank you. Over to you, Prerna.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Dr. Navneet Munot to please give his word of thanks to the speaker and conclude the program for today.
Thank you, Prerna. Namaskar. On behalf of the COATRC Bhopal, I take this opportunity to present our gratitude to everyone behind organizing this online training program. First of all, I would like to offer my sincere thankfulness to the Council of Architecture, New Delhi, for this wonderful initiative by setting up its training and research center at Manit Bhopal. I would like to thank President COA New Delhi, Architect Habib Khan, who has shown the right way to get the administrative approval. I would like to thank the Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Noida, for giving approvals to organize such event at national level. I would like to thank Dr. Devendra Pratap Singh, Dean, Architecture and Planning Department, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, who always stood for COATRC Bhopal and made available all necessary arrangements for this event. My sincere thanks to Professor Prerna Sharma, Assistant Professor, Architecture and Planning Department, Amity University, who was coordinating this event from the last 2 months, and her endless efforts have made this event possible. Once again, thank you, Professor Sharma. In the last but not least, I would thank all my students, participants, and experts who are the part of this event. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Pranav.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a great pleasure working with you. And thank you, Architect Badri, for joining us today. It was indeed a great session.